Hello, hello. Welcome to the podcast. We're going to get right into this. Welcome to part 4 of this series. I am actually over here smiling. I am ready for part 4 of this series. And if you're just jumping into the series and you haven't listened to previous parts and previous episodes, I highly recommend that you go back and start at part 1 because I definitely laid the groundwork. We laid the foundation for the conversations to really layer on each other in the most powerful, supportive way. But with that being said, what we're going to be talking about today, which is pleasure, joy, and comfort as resistance in our self-care, or as really important acts of love and acts of self-care. Because this series specifically, I'm unpacking with every episode 8 self-care practices in times of injustice, rising fascism, oppression. And so up to now, you can really take each of the pieces that we've been unpacking and really start to check in with yourself. Okay, number 1, am I being kind to myself? Number 2, am I tending to my emotions? Am I processing emotions? Am I doing my emotional self-care? Number 3, am I doing my nervous system self-care? Am I tending to my nervous system needs? TLC for my nervous system. And today we're really diving into pleasure, joy, and comfort. And I'm packaging those up together because there's definitely overlap. I mean, they're each a little bit different and a little bit of a different flavor. They are their own element, but they also can overlap and vary depending on who you are and how you define pleasure, or what brings you pleasure, or what feels pleasurable to you, or what brings you joy, or what feels like comfort for you. And so in this episode, I'm going to be sharing 3 examples of how I've been integrating joy, pleasure, comfort as self-care that literally is feeding my soul, my spirit. But even on a very science level, we can definitely talk about the brain science part here. We'll definitely do that because I know that it's important. It can be important to understand a little bit of why, the reasons why, like how is this helpful? Why is it helpful? I definitely like to understand kind of under, the hood, like why does this matter? The science, the reasons behind it. But I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to get too academic with it because as I shared with you from the very beginning of this series, really my intention here is not so much to teach from this like place of, I am a teacher and let me teach you, from the place of being an expert, which I do. I have tons of expertise in this. But more so, this series specifically is about me sharing with you as a human. Yes, I have a lot of expertise here, and I will share everything that I can to be helpful. But really sharing as a human, how have I been integrating and using these tools in my life, these self-care practices to support myself as I'm navigating me as a human, what it is that we're navigating. So much that we're navigating. Today in this episode, I'm not going to name in particular like this and this and that because I've already named so many things in previous episodes of this series. Today I want to focus really on the joy, the comfort, the pleasure. Okay, so let me give you some examples. But first I will share a little bit of science. So here's one thing I want you to know. When we experience joy, pleasure, the brain's reward system, which involves neurotransmitters, dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, all that good stuff gets released. And when there is so much going on, we need this. I'm going to say that again. I'm literally going to get closer to the microphone here. Dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, these are all feel-good hormones. We need this. We need this, like on a soul level, we need this when we're navigating so much of what we're navigating, right? Seeing so much of what we're seeing, hearing so much of what we're hearing happening in our communities, in the world, in the collective human experience right now. We need this. And I know that one of the things that can come up is even feeling guilty. Like, how can I be enjoying XYZ when there's so much happening in the world? When there's a war, when there's this, when there's that. And I get that. But it's also so important. That's why I'm calling these that joy and pleasure and comfort are an act of resistance because we need it to recharge. And just as a human, if we've been navigating so much stress and our nervous systems have been activated and navigating situations that are activating our nervous systems, and we've been in fight and flight, and we know the energy demands of that, we need the dopamine, the serotonin, the endorphins, but in a way that actually is supportive. And I'll also add, I know that for me, this is really significant and meaningful and important. So I want to share this. When we think about groups of people all over the world, groups of people that have been resilient in the face of oppression, groups of people all over the world throughout so many different times in history, right, of mankind, across cultures, we can see it that music and dance and drumming and communal celebration have been used in the face of oppression. And I think in that, there's definitely some emotional expression and outlet. And we talked about that when we talked about emotional processing. So there's definitely that element of it. But there's also the joy and the movement and the pleasure and community and the comfort that comes from that. So our ancestors and so many that have come before us, like I can think of this specifically, I can think of this and I can see this in my own lineage from my own ancestors and their indigenous practices and the joy in that and the celebration in that. So I think there's so much wisdom that we can borrow. And I certainly have borrowed so much of this wisdom and strength when I look at, particularly for me, those who have come before me. But as a collective, we can, again, like I said, across cultures, the resilience of so many groups of people in the face of oppression. And you can see it, the dance, the music, the drumming, these communal celebrations, that there is a place, an important, sacred, vital place for this. And now for me and you, it may not look the same, but we can borrow from this. And how might this translate as a self-care practice for you? So with that being said, I'm going to share some examples. So yeah, this year, 2025, I will most certainly say and have shared with you with so much going on, especially as a first generation daughter of immigrants, first generation Mexican American here in the United States, and like seeing these ICE raids, these inhumane ICE raids, and so much dehumanization happening literally towards my community. There's so many other things, right? But that's one example that I will name, but there's so many more. But I don't want to spend like a whole hour talking about all these other examples, but I will name one. But so much dehumanization happening in so many communities that I am seeing with my eyes and hearing with my ears. And I'm like, what the F is happening? Like, what is happening? And so it's been a lot of processing emotions, which I've already shared. There's been a lot of nervous system self-care, which I've already shared. There's been a lot of being gentle with myself, being kind to myself, which I've already shared. And with all of that, on a personal note, we also moved twice this year. And there's a whole lot of other things just in our own personal lives, which I know is the case for everyone. So I just want to sprinkle that in there. And in the midst of all of that, one example that I want to share with you, and this is definitely a big one, because I'm going to share little examples that feel like not little in the sense that they're not important, but just kind of looking at it from a scale perspective. This one that I'm going to share with you right now it felt like a bit an example of like, oh, this is like a big thing we're doing, and it is so joyful, and there was so much pleasure in it. So if you've been following me for any amount of time, you know that I freaking love Bad Bunny. I am a huge Bad Bunny fan. Huge, like just love Bad Bunny. Okay. Huge fan. And this summer in Puerto Rico, Bad Bunny had a residency where he was doing concerts every weekend, and we were able to get tickets for the concert. Like, actually, the entire residency sold out in less than 4 hours. I was waiting online for those tickets. I won't even tell you how long I was waiting online for those tickets, but I was able to get tickets, 2 tickets, my husband and I, and we made it out to Puerto Rico in August, and we had the most amazing, so much fun. I kind of felt like a little kid in a way. In a way, I really felt like a little kid. Like, I just had so much fun. I love traveling, so that was fun. And there was so much pleasure in that. We also, of course, enjoyed some delicious food, which, like, my mouth is watering right now just thinking about it. And so that there's pleasure there and joy there. And it was beautiful. The beach and where we were staying was beautiful. I remember the day before the concert, we just pretty much had like a layout in the sun, chill by the pool. They had like a DJ by the pool and drinks, and like, oh, there was so much pleasure and joy there. And also comfort, I will say, because like we got to sleep in, which I really never get to do at home because my daughter wakes up super early. So there was some rest there as well. And the day of the concert, of course, like if you're listening to me and you were able to experience this concert, like I don't even think concert is the right word. It was an experience. It started right at 9 p.m., right on time, and it ended at midnight. So entire 3 hours, and every single minute was filled with just like delicious, just like sensory. I mean, the stage was beautiful. Like the way he was presenting each song, like everything was so unique and different. They had like 2 different stages, and then of course the music. And I'm kind of a music geek because I like grew up playing instruments and music and singing as well. And I can tell you, there was not once in those entire 3 hours that I heard him like be off pitch. And so even just the sound, I was impressed. The delight of hearing the music, the drums, the sound, his voice, what the words were saying. It was like a buffet, the most delicious buffet for my senses. So talk about pleasure. So this was like I'm saying, like this was a big example of something we did that just was like so joyful, so much pleasure, so much pleasure. There was an exhibit that they had as a part of the concert experience that we also were able to go to. Is like at a completely different location at a completely different time. And we also went to that exhibit, and that was so beautiful and interesting to see. I'll just give you one example. One of the exhibits they had was the sound booth that didn't even know this. The sound booth that Benito Bad Bunny travels with. Apparently he has a sound booth that was made for him, and they had it there. I mean, one of them, and travels with it, and they like take it to different places so that he can record in different places and be inspired. That was just such a pleasurable, like yummy, joyful experience to, see all these things and the artistry and the creativity. Yum, yum, yum. It was amazing. And I'm so glad that even though there was so much going on and there is so much suffering and there is so much happening, even in our own just personal lives, there was so much happening. I believe 3 or 4 weeks before we went to the concert, we had just moved for the second time that summer. It would have been so easy to say like there's too much going on, but I'm so glad we didn't. And that's not a shamey statement at all. Each person needs to really, discern what's best for you in your situation, etc. But I am just reflecting and sharing with you. I am so glad that we prioritized our joy. That I like actually feel like crying right now as I just said that to you. I'm so glad that we prioritized our joy, that we prioritized experiencing so many forms of pleasure, that we allowed ourselves to have that and to receive that and to create a space for it, because we actually had to, like, that space for this pleasure that I just shared with you, it had to be created, the space for this. It was not handed over to us on a silver platter. Oh no. I feel like I fiercely, honestly, I'm going to give myself more credit. Like, I bought the tickets, I booked the flights. My partner does a lot of things. I'm just going to go ahead and give myself a whole lot of credit for this right now. I fiercely carved out the space and like curated this experience for us to go and have time to feed our souls in this way. And I'm so glad, because we needed it. We needed it. So I'm going to leave that example there. As you can see, I could talk about that for 3 more hours at least. I could talk about that for the whole day. And just, I'm smiling ear to ear. I can feel the joy in my body of remembering and recalling the sights we saw. Yes, yes. I'm so glad that I fiercely carved out that space and prioritized it and even claimed it. Like, I am going to experience this and make space for this and have this in my life and allow myself to receive it without guilt, right? Without guilt of like, I shouldn't, or like there's too much suffering happening, or etc., or it's a silly thing to spend my money on, or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to leave that experience there. I'm going to leave that example there. And now I'm going to share another example. And actually, before I share this next example, I just want to remind, because I haven't said it yet in this episode, please center your own experience. As we are sharing examples, I can only share my own lived examples and realities and truths, but center your own experience. What would it look like for you to carve out and claim and fiercely protect things and experiences and moments that bring you joy, pleasure, or comfort? Okay. From that question, I'm going to share another one of my examples, because we are packaging together pleasure, joy, and comfort. And now I want to talk about comfort. One of the examples that I can share with you in regards to comfort, I want to name one that could feel almost so small that it could even be overlooked, but I'm not going to overlook it, is on days when I have just felt so tired, like so run down, whether it's like emotionally depleted, like I am at the kind of bottom of my emotional bandwidth. Like maybe I've just been doing a lot of emotional processing in regards to XYZ, or I've been really noticing my nervous system has been needing a lot of care and support, etc. Choosing clothes that are comfortable has been such a loving act. And along with that, I think this goes hand in hand. I've actually also been making a lot of caldos for dinner for our family. So caldos is a Spanish word essentially for soups. I've been making a lot of soups because I think that's been really not in the summertime, because I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and it's effing hot, and like caldos or in soups in the summer does not sound great. But as we started getting into like fall and now winter, I've been making a lot of soups, and they've just been feeling so comforting, so nourishing. Literally the warmth, even just the way that you eat a soup and like your body is able to receive like that warmth and all that nourishment. That is an example of comfort as well. Like small doses of comfort. With the Bad Bunny concert example, that was not a small dose. That was like straight IV to the veins of dose of pleasure and joy. Now the ones that I'm naming of like, ooh, I'm going to choose something that I'm going to let myself just choose something to wear today that feels really comfy, or ooh, a soup, something warm, comforting. These are little doses of comfort that are accessible. You know what just came to my mind? Even a hug, asking a friend, a loved one, Even visiting maybe like, a friend, a loved one, and even asking for a hug, that can be a dose of comfort or pleasure as well, right? Like that physical touch, which physical touch, even just naming physical touch right now reminded me that I also love scheduling massages. So that's also a good example. I typically will make sure to schedule myself massages as well. That feels both pleasurable and comforting, especially the place that I've been going lately. The scent that they have, like the way they have the candles, and then they have the sound of like water, ocean. It almost feels like I'm in a womb, like a womb. That's the kind of environment they've created. So even that is also very comforting. So you can think about your environment. How can you even create, if you don't have it already, a space in your living room or in your bedroom that feels very comfy and or brings you joy? So I've shared a couple of examples there that are like little doses. What's like what is a little dose this week? What is a medium dose for the month? Or what is a mega size XL dose of pleasure and joy, like my Bad Bunny example, for the year that you can then even like look forward to? And we are just fiercely claiming this and protective of it and curating it into our lives because we are saying, like, hey, this matters. For me as a full human, this matters and it has an important place in self-care. By the way, I'll also add, just because I've been doing this work for a decade now, working with so many brilliant women from all over the world. This is a piece of self-care that almost every single time with every single client comes up in some way, shape, or form, where there is some sort of like emotional eating or late night eating. There is some part or piece of craving more pleasure or comfort or joy. And by the way, this was totally me. Like, I'm raising both my hands over here. When I had a relationship with food that it felt like food was my only go-to for like literally everything, for pleasure, for joy, etc., there was a big part of my journey of my own transforming my relationship with food and transforming my relationship with how I took care of myself and addressed my needs, was diversifying. What does joy look like? Where does pleasure come from? Is there enough joy and pleasure in my life to address and support me as a full human and my experience? Okay, so now I want to share one more example with you. We're in the middle of, December. Actually, I'm recording this episode for you about a week before Christmas, for those that celebrate Christmas. But this episode will air on December 24th. And I know that this is a time, the holidays, that definitely can have some complex emotions, complex family dynamics. But I intentionally decided to do something that would like insert a shot of joy, something I wanted to do, that like I was excited to do. And so I actually love photo shoots. I love photo shoots. I love planning them. I love creating themes, etc., blah, blah, blah. Like, if you go to my website, brendalomelli.com, I had a blast with the creative direction of the different outfits and the scenes. And I even think about to the detail of which kind of hair style is going to be with which kind of outfit and what is the background. So anyways, long story short with this, I love planning photo shoots. It brings me joy. And there's so much creativity around that I love. So I started thinking about a holiday pictures for my family, my immediate family, me, my daughter, and my husband. Started thinking about that. And then I started thinking about my whole family, especially my sisters, because both my sisters had babies this year. So our family grew this year. There are two new nephews. I have two new nephews this year. One was born back in January and the other one was born in March. So we have two new babies in the family. And then I started thinking, what an awesome gift it would be for them to also get family pictures. And then I started thinking about the whole family. So here's what I decided to do, because it felt fun for me to do and like brought me so much joy. I hired a photographer who is a good friend of mine, who also did my photo shoot that is currently on the website. We went to Mexico City and we had a whole day of just shooting in the most amazing location in Mexico City. But that photographer is a good friend of mine, and she literally lives about 5 minutes from me. And I reached out to her and I told her my idea and asked her, would you happen to be available on this one day? Because two of my brothers live in New York and my one sister lives in LA. So there's only a few days available where everyone's in town. And she was available. So I asked her if she would possibly be available to do a photo shoot. And she's actually really excited about it. So I hired a photographer for 2 hours and I reserved a studio. And this is my gift to my family because we don't do Christmas gifts. That wasn't like a tradition that we grew up with. It's just not something that we do. But I am very excited. And you could probably hear it in my voice as I'm talking about it. This is bringing me joy. There's so much joy for me around this. And then I put together like this visual guide for our family thing. And I have this really cool idea for my daughter and her little cousins for a scene that we'll shoot with them together. That's going to be precious. And it brings me joy to think about everyone in the family is going to have professional pictures that they're going to be able to have for them to keep. And of course, I'm happy and it brings me so much joy and makes me so happy to know that I will have family pictures with all of us, my parents, my brothers, my sisters, their babies, my family. And so that is my example. For you, the idea of planning something like this may sound horrific. You may be like, oh, hell to the no. That sounds awful. But this is the beauty of each of us just being so different. There is no one in the world exactly like me, and there was no one in the world exactly like you. No one. There was no one in the world that loves these quirky little things the way that I do, and the kinds of things that bring me joy and pleasure and comfort. And there's no one in the world exactly like you that the quirky little things that make you smile or that make you laugh so hard that your stomach hurts. And that is beautiful. And so as I'm sharing this with you, I want to invite you into what are the things? What are the things? What are the ways in which you can insert and have doses of pleasure, joy, comfort? It doesn't have to be big. It can be medium, small, tiny, all the different, it's a whole spectrum. What is that for you? Is it asking for a hug? Is it going outside on a walk? If you have like a, beautiful trail nearby or something, is there a little cafe that you love to go and just hang out at? Is it hanging out with your cat? I have no idea what these things are for you, but what I can share from my own experience is that it is priceless. It is priceless. It is so valuable that if it is so valuable to get to know what these things are for you. And then once you know what they are, and of course they change sometimes and they shift around. That's totally, that's how it is because we're humans and we evolve and we change and our tastes change and what we are into changes. And that's just how it is. And for some of us, what we're into changes more than others. That's part of it. But here's where I'm going with that is whatever it is that brings you joy, comfort, or pleasure, and or any combination of those, be fierce in carving space out for that and claiming it for yourself and allowing yourself to receive it. It is your birthright to experience joy and pleasure and comfort. All right, my sister, I will quickly say, if this is something where you would love to be supported on your journey to be able to do more of this in your own self-care, of course, I would be honored to support you in that process. There's a couple of different ways that you can work with me or learn from me. One of those is my coaching community, The Last 10. You can find all the details at brendalomelli.com. I also have my 30-day course, She Creates Freedom, which is specifically designed and curated for women of color and daughters of immigrants, a guided pathway to freedom from emotional eating. And of course, I also have private coaching. So all the details, brendalomelli.com, check that out. But thank you for joining me today. And I will see you here next week where we're going to talk about sacred rest. Happy holidays to everyone. I send you so much love, and I will talk to you very soon.